Welcome to our journey through one of the most fascinating and enduring civilizations in human history, ancient Egypt. For over 3,000 years, the Egyptians created a world of mystery, beauty, and ingenuity that continues to captivate the imagination of people around the globe. From the Great Pyramids of Giza to the timeless allure of the Nile River, today we will explore the incredible history and achievements of this ancient empire. Buckle up as we dive into the rich culture, religion, and legacy of ancient Egypt. The history of ancient Egypt begins around 3100 BCE, with the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt by the first pharaoh, Narmer. This marked the beginning of the early dynastic period. But before this unification, the Nile River Valley had been home to small farming communities for thousands of years, and the fertile soil along the Nile allowed for the growth of crops like wheat and barley. As the first Egyptian dynasties began to form, the pharaohs took on divine status, becoming both political leaders and religious figures. The Egyptian concept of kingship became intertwined with religion, creating a central figure that was both a ruler and a god. One of the most iconic periods in ancient Egypt's history is the Old Kingdom, which lasted from around 2686 BCE to 2181 BCE. It was during this time that the most recognizable symbols of Egypt were created: the Great Pyramids of Giza and the Great Sphinx. King Khufu, also known as Cheops, commissioned the Great Pyramid. It is a wonder of engineering and construction, standing at over 450 feet tall and originally covered in smooth white limestone. But the Old Kingdom was not just about monumental architecture. It was also the period when the Egyptians perfected their art, mathematics, and written language called hieroglyphs. The intricate carvings found in tombs and temples were meant to ensure a successful journey to the afterlife for the deceased. After the decline of the Old Kingdom, Egypt entered the Middle Kingdom, a period of reunification and recovery, which saw the rise of Thebes as a powerful political and religious center. Pharaohs of the Middle Kingdom focused on building infrastructure, including irrigation projects to control the Nile's floods, ensuring that Egypt's agricultural base thrived. During this time, literature flourished, and the Egyptians produced some of the most famous works of their civilization, such as the Instructions of Amenemhat, a series of wisdom teachings, and the Tale of Sinuhe, a remarkable piece of storytelling. Perhaps the most famous period in ancient Egyptian history is the New Kingdom, which lasted from 1550 BCE to 1077 BCE. This era saw Egypt reach the height of its power and territorial expansion, with pharaohs like Hatshepsut, Akhenaten, and Ramses II leaving indelible marks on history. Hatshepsut, one of the few female pharaohs, expanded Egypt's trade routes and commissioned some of the most extraordinary architecture, including her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Akhenaten, known for his controversial religious reforms, shifted Egypt's focus to worship the sun disk, Aten. Though his changes were short-lived, they represent a pivotal moment in Egyptian religion. Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, is perhaps the most famous of the New Kingdom pharaohs. His reign, lasting 66 years, was marked by military campaigns, monumental architecture, and a long-lasting legacy. His temple at Abu Simbel is one of the most remarkable feats of engineering in the ancient world. Religion played a central role in every aspect of Egyptian life. The Egyptians were polytheistic, worshipping a vast array of gods and goddesses, each with their own specific roles in the natural and spiritual world. The ancient Egyptians were deeply religious people, believing that their gods and goddesses controlled all aspects of the world, from the heavens above to the Nile River below. Their gods were often represented in human or animal forms, each symbolizing a different aspect of life, death, and the afterlife. Today, we explore the powerful and diverse deities of ancient Egypt, and we will uncover their many roles, stories, and functions that shaped one of the most influential civilizations in human history. The core of Egyptian mythology lies in the stories of the Horus, Osiris, and Isis family. One of the most famous gods in Egyptian mythology is Osiris, the god of the afterlife, death, and resurrection. Osiris was originally a god of fertility and agriculture. In the myth of Osiris, he was murdered by his brother Set, who was jealous of Osiris's power. After Osiris was killed, his wife Isis and sister-in-law Nephthys searched for his body and performed rituals to resurrect him. This myth is central to Egyptian religion, symbolizing death, rebirth, and the eternal cycle of life. Isis, a powerful goddess in her own right, was revered as the goddess of magic, motherhood, and healing. She was often depicted as a protective figure, particularly in funerary rites. As the mother of Horus, she was also associated with kingship and protection, making her one of the most important deities in Egypt. Horus, the son of Osiris and Isis, represented the living pharaoh. He was the god of the sky, war and hunting, often depicted as a falcon or as a man with the head of a falcon. In Egyptian mythology, Horus was locked in a struggle with his uncle Set, the god of chaos and disorder, to avenge his father's death and restore order to the world. Egyptian gods weren't just abstract figures, they were highly functional, each overseeing different aspects of life. One of the most important groups of deities were the solar gods. The sun was seen as the source of life, and its movement through the sky was considered a metaphor for life itself. The sun god Ra was perhaps the most significant deity in ancient Egypt. Represented as a man with a falcon head crowned with a sun disk, Ra was believed to journey through the sky each day in a boat, bringing light and warmth to the world. At night, he traveled through the underworld, battling the serpent Apep, representing chaos, before emerging once more in the morning. Ra's cycle of death and rebirth mirrored the cycle of life and death experienced by the Egyptians. But Ra was not alone. He had a number of other forms and companions, including Atum and Amun, another god who rose to prominence in the city of Thebes in ancient Egypt. Amun eventually merged with Ra to become Amun-Ra, the supreme god of Egypt, associated with creation, the air, and the sun. Alongside the solar gods, there were gods who governed the heavens, the earth, and the afterlife. Thoth, the god of wisdom, writing, and knowledge, played a crucial role in maintaining the universe's balance. He was the god who wrote the judgment for souls in the afterlife, and was often depicted as a man with the head of an ibis. Thoth also served as a mediator between the gods, offering counsel in times of dispute. Ancient Egyptians had a unique perspective on death and the afterlife. They believed that the soul could continue to exist after death, but only if it was properly prepared. This belief led to the development of a complex set of gods and deities associated with the journey to the afterlife. One of the most prominent gods of the afterlife was Osiris, the god of death, resurrection, and the afterlife. As ruler of the underworld, Osiris governed the souls of the dead and ensured that they were judged fairly. The souls would undergo a process of weighing their hearts against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, order, and justice. If the heart was lighter than the feather, the soul would be granted entry into the afterlife. The afterlife was an integral part of Egyptian belief, and the elaborate mummification process was designed to preserve the body for the journey into the next life. Mummies were carefully prepared, wrapped and placed in tombs with a variety of items needed for the afterlife, including food, treasures, and sacred texts. The Book of the Dead, a collection of spells and prayers, was used to guide the soul through the dangers of the afterlife and to ensure that they would be found worthy of eternal life. In the afterlife, the soul would journey through a realm of trials and challenges where they would meet other gods who helped them along the way. For example, Anubis, the jackal-headed god, was associated with embalming and the protection of the dead. He played an important role in the mummification process and was seen as the guide who led souls through the afterlife. Horus, the son of Osiris, was also connected to the afterlife, symbolizing the resurrection of the soul. In addition to Horus and Osiris, the goddess Isis was often invoked for protection and healing in the afterlife, particularly for women and children. While the major gods like Ra, Osiris, and Isis were widely worshipped across Egypt, there were also numerous lesser gods and deities, each with specific functions. These gods were often local to particular regions or cities, and their worship was part of the broader polytheistic fabric of Egyptian religion. For instance, Hathor, the goddess of love, beauty, music, and motherhood, was particularly important in the city of Dendera, where she was worshipped as a cow-headed goddess. Hathor was a nurturer, known for her ability to bring joy and comfort to the people, as well as her ability to guide souls through the afterlife. Another important goddess was Sekhmet, a lioness-headed goddess associated with war and healing. She was believed to have the power to destroy enemies, but was also invoked to protect Egypt from plague and disease. Additionally, local cults often worshipped gods associated with specific animals. The crocodile god Sobek, for example, was revered in the region of Fayum, where he was considered the protector of the Nile and its waters. He was associated with strength, fertility, and military prowess. The gods of Egypt were not static figures. They were constantly evolving and shifting in importance. Kings and pharaohs would often elevate their own preferred deities, giving rise to new religious practices and beliefs. As a result, the pantheon of Egyptian gods was diverse and dynamic, constantly shaped by cultural, political, and religious changes. The gods of ancient Egypt were the cornerstone of one of the most fascinating and enduring civilizations in human history. Each god served a unique purpose, from creation and kingship to death and the afterlife. Together, these deities embodied the Egyptians' view of the world, a world in constant flux but governed by divine order and balance. Through their myths, rituals, and temples, the ancient Egyptians sought to understand and connect with the forces that shaped their lives. Egyptians referred to their land as Kemet, meaning the Black Land, because of the rich, dark soil that the Nile deposited during its annual floods. By 3100 BCE, King Narmer, also known as Menes, succeeded in uniting Upper and Lower Egypt. This achievement began the first of the 31 dynasties that would rule Egypt for the next 3 millennia. His establishment of the capital at Memphis, near the Nile Delta, set the stage for the rise of Egypt as a powerful and centralized kingdom. The Old Kingdom was also marked by the flourishing of art, writing, and culture. Hieroglyphs, the sacred and intricate system of writing, was used to document important events, religious rituals, and royal decrees. These texts were often inscribed on tombs, stelae, and monuments, ensuring that the legacy of the pharaohs would endure. The belief in the divine nature of pharaohs was deeply rooted in Egyptian society. Pharaohs were seen as living gods, intermediaries between the gods and the people. Their authority was absolute, and their divine status was reinforced through massive building projects like temples and pyramids, which were seen as their way of achieving eternal life and power. After the decline of the Old Kingdom, Egypt entered the Middle Kingdom, a period of reunification and recovery. The Middle Kingdom lasted from 2050 BCE to 1710 BCE, and during this time the capital shifted to Thebes, a city in Upper Egypt that would become a center of power and culture. Pharaoh Mentuhotep II, who ruled around 2050 BCE, is credited with reuniting Egypt after a period of political fragmentation known as the First Intermediate Period. This restoration of central authority set the stage for the remarkable developments of the Middle Kingdom. The Middle Kingdom was a time of great expansion and military campaigns. Egyptian pharaohs extended their influence into Nubia to the south, securing valuable resources like gold, while also venturing into the Sinai Peninsula and the Levant. The Egyptians also invested heavily in infrastructure, particularly in irrigation and canal systems, which allowed them to better harness the power of the Nile. During this period, Egypt also saw a flourishing of art and literature. One of the most significant works to emerge from this time is the Instruction of Amenemhat, a text that offers advice on ruling and the nature of leadership. The tale of Sinuhe, a story of an Egyptian official exiled to the Levant, is considered one of the finest examples of Egyptian literature. The New Kingdom, 1550 BCE to 1077 BCE, represents the height of Egyptian power, wealth, and influence. This era saw the pharaohs expand Egypt's borders to their greatest extent, establishing a military empire that stretched from the Euphrates River in the north to the Sudanese border in the south. Despite its grandeur, Egypt's power began to wane in the centuries following the New Kingdom. The arrival of foreign invaders such as the Libyans, Nubians, Assyrians and Persians weakened Egypt's once strong military and political dominance. In the 4th century BCE, Egypt was conquered by Alexander the Great, and it became part of the Hellenistic world. After Alexander's death, his general Ptolemy I established the Ptolemaic dynasty, which ruled Egypt for nearly 300 years. The last of the Ptolemaic rulers was Cleopatra, whose alliance with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony marked the end of Egypt's independence. Though Egypt was absorbed into the Roman Empire in 30 BCE, its influence on the Mediterranean world and beyond was immense. The art, architecture, and religious ideas of Egypt were absorbed into the wider Greco-Roman world, and Egyptian culture continued to inspire throughout the ages. If you enjoyed this exploration of ancient Egypt, leave us your comment and join our community for more deep dives into the gods and myths of the ancient world.